Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, Grace Upon Grace. Today I am interviewing a CC graduate. My oldest daughter is home for spring break, and so I thought it would be good to share. I have some questions for her, hoping that it will encourage other CC moms or even just homeschool moms that the journey is worth it, even through the hard times. And so I hope you enjoy. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Okay, reflecting on the journey. Do you have anything you want to say before we start?
No.
Okay. Okay, what is the most challenging aspect of transitioning from homeschooling to a traditional college environment? And how do you feel classical conversations and the skills that you receive from doing classical conversations help you to overcome the challenges?
I would say the hardest part was definitely moving in with new people, having a new environment to navigate, and I think the biggest challenge for me was having to learn how to just cooperate with others and engage with others that I was living with and did everything with. But I think CC definitely gave me the tools, like learning to state how I'm feeling and have a conversation with others to navigate challenges that we face. I don't think I would have been able to navigate that as well without the tools that I received from classical conversations. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, how has your experience with classical conversations shaped your study habits in college?
Definitely with time management. I struggled a lot with time management in high school, just trying to figure out, okay, how much time do I dedicate to this strand and this strand? But in college, we're supposed to dedicate 3 hours a week to a class. And my first semester, I was taking 5 classes. So I had to dedicate a wide amount of hours. I think it was 18 hours to each class. But I had to just put on a timer like I did when I was in challenge and like they encouraged me to, and just get my work done. I try to dedicate 2 hours a day to getting homework done. So I would normally do that in the afternoon once my classes were over, and just be like, okay, for these 2 hours, I'm going to sit down and get my homework done. I don't think I would have known how to navigate that as easily if I didn't have CC to teach me how to set a timer and get my work done efficiently and correctly. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
All right. Okay. In what ways did classical conversations help you develop independence and self-motivation, and how has that influenced your college experience?
I think I've always been a pretty independent person, especially start of middle school towards all through high school. I've just been independent. I've liked to be independent. But I think even more in college, learning to treat independence as a privilege and not abuse your independence. I definitely learned that through challenge. Hey, independence is a privilege, so we have to, understand that it's not something that everybody gets to have in their schooling. And just learning to treat it respectfully, because I think we can abuse our independence if we don't look at it with the right viewpoint. I think also with self-motivation, I kind of always, if I have an end goal in mind, I can always work towards that. So getting something out that's I can see physically, and a planner, writing my stuff down in a planner and saying, hey, I have this goal to meet by the end of this time. And so seeing that made me want to reach that goal. And that was kind of how I was motivated, especially last semester. just navigating how to get assignments done and getting them done on time and not being late on assignments, not procrastinating, was just having tangible evidence of what I needed to get done instead of like having it in my brain and being like, okay, I have to get this done. But I think like with CC, having a guide that told me what to have finished made me want to have that also in college, because it's not really like given to you. You kind of have to make it up yourself. But yeah.
Okay, what practical skills or life lessons from homeschooling do you find most helpful as you navigate the college life?
Probably communication is a huge thing. I feel like growing up in a house with a big family and then also having to do all of your schoolwork with your family, and just learning how to communicate your needs and wants with those who are around you. I think I've definitely used that a lot in college, just with the different organizations I'm a part of, churches I'm a part of, even like my friends, just being able to communicate clearly what I'm needing, and also just like expectations to other people, because I think we can always have something in our mind, but unless we, put words to it, nobody knows what we're expecting from them or what we're wanting to gain. And so I think that was a huge thing that I gained from CC, was being able to like go to a class and talk with others and communicate well and clearly was a huge thing.
Cool. Okay. Classical Conversations emphasizes building a strong foundation in faith and character. How has that foundation influenced your decisions and experiences in college so far?
Growing up, I was raised in a Christian household. Faith was like the biggest thing for our family, and my parents were very intentional with like having Bible study time and making Jesus a priority in our life, like our number one priority. And so getting to college, that was something that I realized that like I had to do on my own. Like my parents were on top of me being like, hey, you need to read your Bible today, or hey, you need to make sure that you're going to church on Sunday, things like that. But it was really it was my decision to, if I wanted to prioritize that, it was all on me. And so honestly, I think that has grown my relationship with the Lord even deeper than it was when I was back home, because it has been like just me and the Lord and figuring it out and figuring out what that looks like for me. But then also like I immediately got plugged into a church because I knew that's what I needed. And so CC being like a faith-based curriculum really impacted me to look for that also in my schooling at my university, which my university is a Christian university, so they do really good at like being intentional with asking for prayer requests and praying before classes and like bringing scripture into our lessons, but at the same time like in my own learning and my own engaging with the material I'm given, looking at it through a Christian worldview. So yeah.
So was it hard? This is not a question on here. I was just one that I thought of. Can you explain to the CC parents or the homeschooling parents that are watching your experience with finding a church home outside of DBU? Oh, I said it. Take that out. Outside of your college, because I think that is something that students have to, when they leave their home, their parents aren't there to be like, okay, we're going to church. So maybe you can explain like what, not specifically what churches, but what kind of churches did you visit, and why did you choose the church that you're at now?
I think first thing for me was whenever I went to our orientation during the summer, I asked some of my professors and some people in leadership at the university, what churches do you recommend going to? And so I kind of kept a list of churches that I heard here and there. I also my degree program is in the College of Christian Faith, and so I was around a lot of people who know a lot of churches, and so just keeping a list of those. And then when I got to college, I visited a few, but I had one in mind that I really wanted to make my home church, but it just wasn't for me. It was a big church, and it just felt very production based, which isn't a bad thing, but it just wasn't for me. I wasn't used to that. So after visiting that church, I visited a mentor's church, and I loved it. It was just too far. The distance was just not, ideal for me. So I went to my college, and they gave me a church that they recommended attending. And so I went, and I immediately fell in love with the community. There's, I think the average Sunday there's 170. It's very small, but it was exactly what I needed, and I found mentors and people who would pour into me pretty quickly. I had people asking for my number and asking if they could take me out to coffee and get to know my story. And so it all honestly really took me showing up and then just showing up week after week to that church, and I love it there. So yeah.
Cool. Okay. How do you balance the academic challenges of college with maintaining your faith and personal values? I don't know if that is
definitely it's easy to get overwhelmed with being like, hey, I have, all these assignments that are due, and thinking that's a priority, which is, but also realizing that faith is my number one priority, and my relationship with the Lord is on the top of my list to, maintain. And so realizing that, yeah, our assignments are important and getting these things done are important, but also I need to recognize that I need to keep, time with the Lord a priority. And so I try to do that first thing in the morning and then last thing at night. But I think also just time management, writing out my schedule for the day was a huge thing. For me was just being like, okay, I'm going to wake up at this time, and this is going to be the time that I use for, the Lord. And then I'm going to go to class here. I'm going to go to work at this time. And then, doing personal things like eating and going to the gym. And then also setting aside time to just live life and, surround myself with people. But then also setting aside time to do your assignments. I think you just have to really, schedule out your time and do it well, because you could spend all your time trying to be like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my friends, but sometimes that's not the most important thing to do.
Yeah. So this is also a side question, but has there been times in while you've been away at college that you prioritized maintaining your relationship with the Lord, or were there times where you maybe got off track because sometimes other things feel more appealing at times, and then when you've come back, can you share just how you've seen the Lord grow you, maybe even how your days work differently when you prioritize your time with the Lord?
I will say definitely the beginning of my first semester, I really struggled with trying to figure out what my day was going to look like and how I was going to prioritize the Lord. Because I was like, I have all these new friends and I want to hang out with them and I want to, do well in my classes. And I just had a lot of independence, like we were talking about earlier, is you have to be careful not to abuse your independence. And so coming back, I think it was for like fall break, I came back home and I was like, I really have not done that well at prioritizing my time with the Lord, especially like first thing in the morning. And I would like set aside time to sleep in and, rest well, but I wasn't getting fed spiritually. And so once I came back after fall break, I got an accountability partner at my college, and we just set aside time to wake up it was 6 a.m. in the morning, and we would meet together and just read our Bible, and just having somebody that kept me accountable to, show up, and same for her, just showing up together and, getting in the Word and praying. I did recognize that, like, I felt energized during my day. I didn't feel tired, and I felt like I honestly had more time to get stuff done, which is crazy because you don't think that, like, time can come out of nowhere, but it kind of did feel like the Lord was honoring my, sacrifice to wake up and just meet with Him, which sounds silly, but it's true. So I think that was the hugest thing, and it's worth it, even in like the mundane. Sometimes it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm having this big spiritual movement. Like, it's not always gonna be like that, but just showing up in the mundane, like, really does make a difference.
Okay. What advice would you give to homeschooling families who are just starting out or who may feel unsure about the homeschooling journey?
Yeah, there are actually, at my church, there are a few families who are considering homeschooling or have just recently started homeschooling. There's this one family who just started homeschooling last year, and they just started a business as well. And so they're trying to homeschool their 2 girls and run a business and figure out what, life looks for them. But I think for me, growing up, my favorite thing was, like, my parents not making sure, like, hey, you have to have all this done, this and this done, but, like, prioritizing interactions. And I think my mom did very well at, like, making sure that we had, we could see tangible evidence of what we were learning was working. Because I think, you can sit down at the table and do all your schoolwork, but I love to, like, see things happening and, like, watch things work. And so, like, making it fun and, like, not stressing out about, like, not having this, like, memorized or your, math homework done, which is important, but, just realizing that it all takes time and it's all a journey, and it, like, all comes together in time. I mean, I graduated, I figured life out, like, it does work out, and not stressing out about, like, hey, you're not, reading at the average level, or you're not getting your math done like every other student would, and just, like, tailoring it to your own student, and just prioritizing, like, living life. And I think that is the most important, and the thing that your kids will remember most is, like, the way you did things. Because I think I remember, like, the way my mom was just she did it with so much grace and poise. And so, yeah, just live in the moment and enjoy the time you have, because it's short. So
not expecting every assignment to be perfect and every student to be 100%
right
in things that they may not even enjoy. So yes, getting your schoolwork done, because that's important, and your kids knowing that that is their job at the time, but also recognizing when they need a break or when they need to go outside and learn science outside, because the world is your classroom. You can learn science from going outside. You can learn, it doesn't have to be what's in the textbook. We don't do textbooks until high school, but, every single assignment, every single thing being memorized it doesn't have to be perfect, especially because all kids are different. And, something that you love was to be able to sit down and just read aloud. And, there's, fond memories of us just sitting and reading for hours, and that was okay. Yeah. Because that was what we did for school. And so
I think also you did very well about making, if we had a book to read, she would make it an event. And so I remember we would make coffee, and we had this certain creamer, I think it was amaretto or something, and we would read this book and we would drink our coffee together. I was 8 or 9 or something, but just remembering those times where she made it an event, and it was oh, that's really fun, I want to do that. And so we did that daily. And then even looking past being younger, when I was in high school, I would have an assignment, and rather than doing the assignment, sometimes we would just have a conversation about it, and it was just something what's your opinion on this? And my opinion wasn't always the same as my mom's, but I definitely grew from learning that everybody has a different opinion on a perspective, and having a conversation about it. I still remember a lot of those conversations, and I never felt I have to get this assignment done and then we can have a conversation about it. So I don't know, just being intentional with your kids and making it fun for your student. Every student is different, so.
Yeah, and sometimes even conversations, that's probably one of my favorite things, is just sitting and having a conversation. My second oldest daughter is in Challenge 2 this year, which is the equivalent of a sophomore. And the other day we were all sitting around just talking about virtue and how virtue is important and can be taught and should be taught. Mm-hmm. And then we were talking about something else last night.
About
art.
Her debate for art.
Her debate. And we just sat around. It wasn't anything planned, but it was just conversation and talking about our own viewpoints of it and why, art is important, but why human life is more important. And well, those are conversations that may not be specifically scheduled for your school, but those are conversations that are important because it makes you start to think about the other person's opinions or why someone would believe that art is more important than life, the history of art and art pieces. And so, and they're learning, even though it may not be something that's on their, have a conversation about this, they're still learning through those conversations. So. Right. Definitely important and something that I cherish and love. Okay. If you could go back to your younger self and give advice during your homeschooling years, what would it be?
Probably live in the moment. I'm a huge live in the moment person. I'm just you only live once and you only are going to be able to be in this season for a short amount of time, so embrace it. So probably rather than, sitting there and trying to get through, what I was working on, just embracing the moment, because I think we go through a lot of life being I wish this was over. I wish I wasn't doing this anymore. And I think I really dreaded debate in my high school years. I just didn't enjoy it. And so, but I think looking back now, I didn't really live in the moment and, embrace a time where I could just look at a, perspective and then ask questions about it. And I think I did beat myself up a lot if I didn't do well on something, rather than just being what, I pressed through and I tried my hardest, and that's enough.
And there's always something that you're learning. So even if it's not perfect, you're still learning through it.
Yeah, and just not being so hard on yourself, not taking everything so seriously. So.
How did classical conversations help you to build relationships with peers and prepare you for socializing in a college setting? That's something we hear a lot as homeschoolers or homeschool parents. What about their social life? My kids do not struggle with social life. They can talk to anybody. Yeah. But how do you feel like homeschooling prepared you for college?
I don't even know if it's homeschooling itself as much as parenting. I think, homeschooling did definitely prepare me for some relationship aspects, but I think like in the world we live in, where technology is a huge thing and a lot of people prioritize, being able to be on their phones or on any sort of technology above having a personal relationship with people has been a huge effect on like what relationships look like. So like for me and my parents, I didn't really have like a cell phone line until I was 16, 17. And then social media not till I was 18. And so I really am thankful for my parents not allowing me to like be chronically on my phone and making that a habit, because it is addictive, and I've seen it when I'm trying to be intentional with other people. It's just like it's an escape, and it's a release from having to have a conversation with other people and having to communicate, and it has really become a barrier even at like a university where they do try to prioritize relationships and community. Like it still has become a barrier, and also for me, not allowing my technology privileges to become a barrier. Like I have a timeout box for my phone, and just like being intentional with that. But I also think like I said, having conversations with others and being able to communicate, and learning that at a young age has allowed me to build relationships pretty easily. I've become a pretty huge like relational person. I love getting to know people on a personal level and just understanding who they are. I used to be super shy before we started CC. Like I couldn't carry a conversation. I couldn't make eye contact with people. Like I couldn't ask questions. And so, CC has really shaped me and gave me the confidence I needed to just like go and talk to people and, reach out and, be intentional with others. So, yeah.
Have you found it easy or challenging to make friends in college? And what role did homeschooling play in helping you navigate those social situations?
I think I find it pretty easy to make relationships. I don't think I've struggled any time recently with building connections. I love finding ways to connect to other people, and, I love meeting new people. My whole job is like meeting people and being hospitable to others, and I love it. I feel like it brings me so much joy to talk to other people, but I think especially classical conversations, like you have to go to community every week, and you get to meet people and you get to talk with others and of all different walks of life, and then I don't know, I think that's really shaped the way I respond in social like environments, is just talking to people and going out of my way to make others comfortable, because I realize that not everybody knows how to make a situation comfortable. So yeah, I don't know.
Something that I have noticed with you, but I also see it in some of my other kids, just being able to have a conversation with a person regardless of their age. So a lot of times, we navigate sometimes towards people that we feel comfortable with, whether it's older people or people our age or younger people. But I've noticed that even through high school, you were able to, relate with, the older people in our church and the younger kids that you were ministering to. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's something that CC also prepares you for, like just how to communicate in general. Mm-hmm. And, communicating well helps you build relationships. So.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. How do you see the How do you see the foundation laid by classical conversations influencing your future career and goals?
I think first off, like the motto for CC is to know God and make him known. And so that's my ultimate goal in life, is that no matter what career I have and no matter, what I'm doing with my time, is I'm, having a relationship with the Lord, but also sharing the gospel, because that's what we're called to do. So whether I'm a mom and homeschooling my kids, I'm sharing the gospel with them as my ministry. But then also, like, if I do one day, have a career, which I hope to, I'm also making that my ministry as well. And I think CC did very well at making that, like, our foundation of just knowing God and making him known. And so I think that is what I've taken with me into just my adult life and my job and my career now. And so, yeah.
What are your long-term goals, and how do you feel that homeschooling helped you prepare for them?
Like I said, I do one day hope to be a mom, and a homeschool mom. I want to, educate my kids in an environment that is tailored to them. I just had a great experience being homeschooled, and I want my kids to have that as well. And then also, like, I'm going to college so that I can one day, hopefully have a career of my own, whether that's in ministry or whether that's in having a business of my own. But just long-term wise, I do want to be a wife and a mother. That's my ultimate goal. But yeah.
Okay. From your perspective as a graduate, what do you think homeschooling moms should keep in mind as they are guiding their children through the classical conversations journey, or even just homeschooling in general?
Yeah. I feel like I kind of answered this earlier, but just not taking time for granted, and enjoying each moment, because I think it's easy to be like in the moment and be like, oh my goodness, we have to get all this stuff done. But like in the big picture, one day of work doesn't matter as much as like the time that you've spent with your kids and the intentionality that you had in your relationship with them. Because I think definitely having tasks is important, but being relational is important, and your kids will remember the times that you were intentional and meeting them where they're at, rather than the times where they got all their assignments done and and so I think that would be my encouragement. But then also just like setting an example for your kids, and the way you act and the way you speak to them is a huge thing. It's just like being gentle and understanding where they're coming from.
How did your parents' involvement in classical conversations impact your success as a student and now as a college freshman?
I think for sure my parents helped shape my worldview. I think that was a huge thing we learned in challenge, was just like, what is your worldview and what shapes the way you view the world. And my parents did very well at helping us shape a worldview that was biblical. And like I saw that in the way my parents, were intentional in their time with the Lord in the morning, and then even at night, where we would sit down and read the Bible all together, like making sure that was a priority. I think, like I said earlier, realizing that is the most important thing, is being intentional with my time with the Lord, was only set by example from my parents, and just the way they were very hands-on with us and very involved in our lives, that I saw the void that I needed to fill that my parents weren't filling in my college life. And so learning to fill that on my own, and like, yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer.
I think that's great.
Okay.
What are some obstacles you faced in college so far, and how did you overcome obstacles?
I think the biggest one was the last semester. Me and my roommates all got into this big, tizzy, and it was just miscommunication amongst all of us. And it kind of made one person view this person another way, and then it made them view another person another way. And so it kind of just backfired. And I think it went on for like a week or so. It was just really bad. And so one night I just recognized how horrible it was getting, that I went to them face to face, and I was like, I think once everybody gets home tonight, we need to have a meeting and sit down and just communicate what we're feeling and why things are going wrong. And so we did, and just talking about our opinions and being able to understand, and also being a mediator in that was difficult and something I hadn't experienced on a personal level. I've only done that in class settings, and so when it involved the people that I loved and the people who I was in close relationship with, it was difficult, but it was definitely something that made our relationship stronger, and grew us closer together as roommates. It definitely wasn't easy, but learning to, when you see something that's going on, and learning how to effectively, figure out what is going on, and, I'm trying to figure out the word I'm thinking of. I guess kind of mapping out what that would look like and executing it well, was something, I wouldn't have probably been able to do unless I had seen that, done in my own family, but then also in class settings, and learning that talking it out is, the most important thing, and the only way that you're going to be able to grow and fix what is going on.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of adults don't even really know how to, they don't have the skill to be able to communicate, when they're struggling or if somebody offended them. And I know many times before you left for college, we talked about how living with people that you don't know, at first it was probably fun, and, it was new for everybody, but once you get into the routine and you get to see people, you see the good, the bad, the ugly, you see the sin, and learning to communicate, you've hurt my feelings here, or did I offend you because you're treating me differently? Or, those are important skills that will last a lifetime if you know how to use them. And so I think, even though it's not easy, it does get easier when you see see how relationships don't have to be broken for a lifetime, that you can communicate. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be best friends with every person, but to be able to communicate well with your peers, especially the ones that you have to live with for a whole year, thankfully that y'all worked that out in a timely manner, and
Right.
Have now great relationships. So,
yeah, for sure.
Were there any moments during your homeschool journey where you questioned if it was the right path? And if so, how did you work through any doubts?
I don't think there was ever a time that I was I don't know if this is gonna work. I think I always just knew that was my parents. They felt like that was what homeschooling was, what the Lord was calling them to. And so I just trusted that they knew what they were doing, and I never questioned if they were going about it right or wrong. I kind of just went with the flow of what they wanted for us. And I do think if I would have questioned more, maybe it could have been a good thing, but I also think that sometimes like just trusting what your parents have for you is also a great thing as well. But I mean, asking those questions is important, and if you do have those questions, like being open with your parents about them and just saying, hey, I don't actually know if I see, the purpose and why we're doing this. And I think, a huge obstacle for me was math. I was like, I don't understand how anybody's supposed to get through math and supposed to homeschool at the same time, because I just really struggled with it. But like my parents knew I struggled with it because I communicated that with them and helped me get through it. And but I think ultimately I didn't really question their I guess drive and want to homeschool and want to give us an education that they thought would equip us well for life. And so I just never questioned that. But I think if I did, my parents created an environment where I could have asked questions that I had. So yeah.
Okay. So maybe it would be good for parents to have that openness to where allow their students to know that if they do struggle with something, to coming and asking is good, because then they'll know the why behind what they're doing.
Right. I think also I feel like a big topic that we've talked about is communication, but it's like if you have created an open environment for your children to come to you and ask, I think sometimes in schooling children can kind of get very stubborn in what they're doing and kind of closed off. And so if you have created that open environment, I think it allows for your child to communicate with you hey, I actually don't feel like this is working for me, and going from there. So
okay, what would you say to homeschool moms who may be feeling discouraged or uncertain about their child's future success?
What's the word? My brain is
discouraged.
Yeah, whenever you're discouraged, just being hey, this is where I feel like the Lord has called me and my family. And so even though I have my doubts and my concerns right now, I'm going to continue in what I'm doing. And even going to other homeschool moms and trying to see if they might have advice, or if they face the same challenges, or if they have any advice on what you're facing. But I think also when I got to college, in my English class, I was encouraged by my professor that I write a really good essay and that it's constructed really well. And I didn't really realize that was a good thing until I got to college. I just thought, this is how we're supposed to write our essays. And then I got to college, and then I was praised for the way I wrote my essays. And then one of my philosophy professors, he said that he loves whenever he finds out that one of his students has been classically educated, because they know how to ask questions about life. And I think there were just other times where my professors praised me for the way my schooling was, and the classes that I've taken, and the things I've been involved in, which are offered to normal students who go to a regular public school or private school. And so just having that confidence and knowing that you have an end result, and just sticking it through, even though it might be hard, but you'll get through the tough patch. So
yeah, I think also just remembering that your kids and yourself will be learning for the rest of your life. Every day you're learning things, and may not even be intentional things that you're trying to learn in the moment, but they will be learning for the rest of their life. So even if they don't get every single thing mastered, the goal is that there is progress. So when my kids have struggled in certain areas, mainly I feel like math is the biggest struggle, but a lot of times, as long as you're seeing progress, then I would say just keep going and encouraging them. Is there anything else that you would like to say, encourage? Maybe something that you learned in college?
I think I have something. I think something else I would encourage parents with, I don't know if we went over this already, but giving your child like real life situations to work through, and like giving them something that they enjoy doing as like a release. So like for me, that was being in the kitchen and cooking, and so there were times where I had stuff that needed to be done, but I was not in the right mindset to get it done, and so I would be like, Mom, I really want to go bake right now, and she would just allow me to go in the kitchen and make something. And then like for my brother, if he feels like he needs to go outside and build something to let loose, like she allows him to do that. And so like allowing those times for like just being involved in like real life circumstances, instead of like, I think making it like it's a real school and being like, hey, we have to sit at our table until we get all of this done. Just making it like tailored to your own family and to your own life. And I think not being so hard on yourself and your kids. And then also I think, what was the other word? The other thing I want to talk about. Another thing is encouraging conversation. I know we went over this earlier, but like a huge thing that I remember is my mom just like she would like watch the news, and then the next day she would ask me random questions about things she saw or heard, and ask me for my opinion on it, or if I, had heard something on the news or read something about, what was going on in the world, like bringing that to her and then having a conversation. So encouraging conversation about things that are happening in the real world, because I feel like in our learning sometimes it can feel like, why are we talking about history all the time? And like, I just want to talk about something that I like know is happening now. And so encouraging those real life conversations and experiences can have a real impact on your children.
Yeah. I think going back to what she said about allowing your kids to have that freedom, if in the, like my son wanting to just go outside and build something, like it's good for him to do that, and he's still learning through that. It may not be what's on our books, but he's still learning, and going in the kitchen and baking, if that's what your child loves, like they're still learning and they're still growing in that skill. So being open to, the freedom of allowing kids to be themselves. And if it's just an off day, sometimes it's better for you to allow them to, explore and discover, other things that they enjoy. It doesn't always have to be perfect with the school books and the work getting done at that exact moment. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this interview. And like I've said before, if you have questions, I'm here. I will answer comments. So if you have any, please just post them in the bottom. And please like and subscribe to my channel. And thank you again for joining. Have a great day. Bye.